Hello. We are going to have a quick discussion on the growth of the United States. So, first, let's talk about reasons for the expansion west. And this took place roughly 1780 to the 1850s. And so, why was westward expansion so critical to the United States? And there's some economic reasons. New land for farmers, and it was specifically land for southern crops like cotton that was in need. Because remember, the southern states are the agriculture states. The northern states are more focused on manufacturing. So the southern states needed more land for farming, and cotton was the big cash crop. And we'll talk about that more in the next chapter. New resources and raw materials. An example of this, which you will read about tomorrow, the California Gold Rush, where gold was found in California. And in 1 year, 80,000 people traveled to California in search of gold and the opportunity and the riches it would give them. Also, westward expansion offered new opportunities to start a business. There were low prices for this new land, so it was cheap that people could buy. Advances in transportation made it easier to move west. You had improved roads, the steamboat, the train. Advances in these new methods of transportation made everything easier for movement. And so you had some political reasons as well. The United States government wanted to solidify or make strong its borders. It didn't want to be surrounded by foreign countries like Mexico and Britain and France. So it wanted to just solidify its territory. It also had, people in the United States had a desire to expand American democracy west. And there were some social reasons. It was a refuge for persecuted groups such as the Mormons, which you will read about tomorrow as well. So these persecuted groups felt that they could escape west and live their life and practice their religion. Also, there was this romantic notions of life in the West, that it was romanticized. It was, seen as something beyond great, beyond possible. And it was an opportunity to start a new life. So those are some of the reasons why the westward expansion happened in the United States. But there's also this idea that you read about yesterday called manifest destiny. And this is the idea, the belief that the United States had a God-given right to spread across the continent from sea to shining sea. So from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, Americans believed it was their God-given right to control all this land. And so this painting is very symbolic of the manifest destiny. As these people move west, they are being guided by an angel. Right? It's their God-given right to spread across the continent. So that is manifest destiny. And people really believed it. It 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 sparked inspiration and motivation and unity within the United States about this idea of moving west. And so, if you look at growth in the United States from 1783 to 1853, you start with the 13 original colonies, and then after the American Revolution, we get the Northwest Territory, which includes Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Kentucky, all that. And then we go into more land expansion, a gain of new territory, and we're going to quickly talk about the different purchases and treaties that led to the United States fulfilling the manifest destiny from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. So the first one is we already talked about the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. Under the presidency of Thomas Jefferson, land purchased from France for $15 million. It doubled the size of the United States. The United States also gained control of the Mississippi River and the port of New Orleans. Again, two critical elements of trading. The Mississippi River for travel, and New Orleans was a city where the Mississippi goes into the Gulf of Mexico. So it's easy. They use that to get to the coast of the United States or to Europe. So it was a big deal, and we've already talked about this as well, but it doubled the size of the United States. And then next, in 1821, under the presidency of James Monroe, you had the Adams-Onis Treaty, and that is when Spain agreed to give Florida to the United States in exchange for $5 million. If you remember from when we read it in the textbook and talked about it in class, Spain could not control the people living in Florida. So instead of going into conflict with the United States, it was easier for them just to give it up. And so that's what they did for $5 million. And so United States has now not only doubled its size, but it's also gained Florida. And in the Adams-Onis Treaty, Spain gave up its claim to the Oregon country as well. So now we just had the United States, Great Britain, and Russia claiming it. And then in 1845, we have the annexation of Texas, where Texas officially becomes a state after 9 years of independence, of being its own country. The goal was always for Texas to be part of the United States. So in 1845, under the presidency of John K. Polk, Texas becomes a state. And it's not only the modern day borders of Texas, but it also includes parts of New Mexico and Oklahoma and so on. So it was not just Texas. And then in 1846, so about the same time as the annexation of Texas under the presidency of John K. Polk, he agreed to a compromise with Great Britain. And this compromise is they would draw the line at latitude 49 degrees north. So if you look at the map, the red line, and all the land north of this 49 degree latitude line would belong to Great Britain, and everything south of the line would belong to the United States. So now we have gained, as part of the United States, Texas, and now some of the Oregon territory. the Oregon country. So the United States is continuing to expand. It needs this land for the number of reasons we've talked about. Well, it thinks it needs. The people think they need this land. So then we have in 1848 the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And this is also under the presidency of John K. Polk. It ended the Mexican-American War. In this treaty, Mexico gave up all of California and New Mexico to the United States. As you see the red area on the map, this was called New Mexico at the time, but it's parts of New Mexico, Arizona, all of Utah, Nevada, California, modern day states. Mexico gave all that up to the United States. It was, in terms of size, it was larger than the Louisiana Purchase in terms of square miles. And in return for the land, the United States paid Mexico $15 million and promised to respect Spanish-speaking people living in the area. And this is also known as the Mexican Cession. So now in 1853, we have the Gaston Purchase, which is this piece of land, the small piece of land, which is present day in Arizona and New Mexico. And it was under the presidency of Franklin Pierce. The United States paid Mexico $10 million for a strip of land in present day Arizona and New Mexico. And they needed it to complete the railroad west. So at the conclusion of the Gaston Purchase, many Americans felt that they have fulfilled manifest destiny, that now they have gone from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, and now the United States controls all the land in between. The last one I want to talk about is the Alaska Purchase of 1867. And so this is another example of the expansion of the United States in terms of territory, and it is solidifying its borders. It's making them strong, making the borders strong. So the Alaska Purchase was under the presidency of Andrew Johnson. The United States paid Russia $7.2 million for Alaska. And we think of Alaska as a smaller state because in terms of population, it is low. And it's, in northern Canada. But if you look at the map, Alaska is actually a very large piece of land with a lot of natural resources such as oil. So even though it's one state, you might be thinking, oh, it's only one state, it's not a big deal compared to the other ones. I mean, this is a big resource to the United States and its expansion. All right, so that is the end of this discussion. When you're done with this, then you can go and complete the notes page based on this discussion. Let me know if you have any questions.